Another approach to asynchronous programming is async await, which was introduced in AS 2017. Okay, async await is actually a syntactic sugar built on top of promises, which allows us to write asynchronous code that looks and feels and reads like synchronous code line by line. So here, see, we don't have the den chain, no callbacks. We just have pure vertical execution. So we said it's a syntactic sugar over promises, makes async code look synchronous. So we have this keyword async, try, catch, and so to speak. So for our async await, we have two keywords. The first one is async. Now, when we place async, we have to place, okay, when we do async await programming, we have to place this async keyword before a function declaration. So what the async keyword does is it tells JavaScript, look, this function will undo a synchronous task and it will automatically return a promise. So that's one. Another keyword is await. So we use await inside an async function. So we place await keyword before any function that returns a promise. So it tells JavaScript, okay, pause the execution of this function right before, right here until the promise resolve. Then give me the result and move on to the next line. So let's go back to our code, our text editor, and see an example of what we're talking about. So we still have these functions from our previous video, and each of these functions returns a promise. Okay. Now look at how we're going to consume this. We're going to make use of an async function. So we have a sync function display dashboard. So we must wrap the code in an async function to use await. Remember, we have two keywords, async and await. Now we said async await allows us to write our code as if it's a synchronous code, even though it's asynchronous. So now we have inside async await, we're going to have a try catch block. Inside this try, we're going to execute our code. And then in the event that, we got an error, we're going to catch that error inside this catch block. So see, it takes an error as a parameter and then we can log the error here. Okay. So we have this async function here. Then we have this try block. So we can do user. Then we can call this function. Remember, to use await, our function has to return a promise. So this login user function, it returns a new promise. So inside here, we're using await login user. I think my linter is messing up here. So we have this login user and then we pass our argument here. So we also log this login user and we get in the email from our user object. Okay. Remember our login user, when it resolves, it returns a result, a resulting object here. Okay. So let's go back to our async function. So you see there's no chain in here. We're running our code line by line. It gives the feel of synchronous programming. For the playlist function, for the get playlist function, it also returns a promise. So we're using await to invoke it. So it is a execution process here until we get the playlist. Until we get the playlist. Okay. So we move on to the next one. So execution process when we use await. Okay, wait. Pause the execution here until we get the song details. On and on like that till we get to this get similarities. It also say execution pauses here until we get the similar artist like that. Okay, so if we got an error, we're going to catch the error here by logging the error using this console.error method so say if any of the awaited promises fail, execution stops and jumps here. Okay, now we still have to invoke this display dashboard function, so we're invoking it here. So we started out with our functions that return promise, and then we chain or let's just say we called our function, because we're not chaining here, there's no chaining here, so we call each of our functions returning a promise inside our async function using inside our async function using the keyword async and await. And remember, we said this await is used with function that return promise. So I'm going to save everything here, and then let's see if we got an error. The error is going to get catch here. So let's go to our browser. Okay, so we got our result. So login user, this is the email, that's the login user function. And then fetch playlist, we fetch our playlist. Fetch song details, we get playing song Midnight City. Fetch similar artists, the recommended artist, this Harry, artist X, artist Y, as we expected here. Where is it? So here we're getting email, the password, and we're logging the email here. And then for the playlist, we're getting fetch playlist, so which is user.user ID, like that. Okay, so that's essentially what async await does. So for the process, it's cleaner, it's easier to read and maintain. The cons needs modern environment or transpilation. Okay, so that's that. We're going to continue with the next approach in the next video.